so
Yeah.
it's informational.
Oh, okay.
All righty, you're on there, young man.
All right, well, let me get the presentation real quick.
Are you gonna start it, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, we're gonna start because there's no information.
It's all information.
Do you wanna record it?
No introduction?
Can't call it to order until we have a quorum.
Yeah, so we're just gonna have an information meeting. You're gonna give us some information updates.
Okay. Dr. Srider, judges, board members, good to be here. Hi, we're ready to get started, and today there's no action items, so we'll just basically be going by for each project, and kind of give you a quick update. So, if we can turn this on, that would be helpful. There you go. So, starting with Mission El Paso, this project is going very well, right on track. We're at about 50%. What you can see here is the elevator shaft, mechanical room, and also you start seeing the stairs right there going up. We're at about 50%, like I said, and this is a good picture to kind of give you an idea where we are in terms of progress. 50% of the east slab is complete. All the footings, everything else on the ground is in place. The 6-inch sanitary sewer line is basically almost complete. It's like 95%. Structural work, they actually have started with steel. That was a major. This is, by the way, these pictures are 2 weeks old, so there has been quite a bit of progress. It says, and one of them is actually one of them is the steel. Actually, steel is starting to go up. So as you can tell, we're still well on track to have a substantial completion in December and move into the spring semester. Mini-master. As far as, if you recall, this was really bad in terms of the billings versus the actual, the planned billings versus the actual billings. It's starting to curve a little bit. We have talked to the contractor because their forecasts seem to be a little bit inaccurate, so we gave them an opportunity to redo it. And you can tell there's already a little bleed. The index was about 0.4 and now it's at 0.6. So it's a little bit of improvement. So Northwest, we are a little bit more down at the west, particularly now the steel has started. We had a conference call with Aztec, which is the contractor for the project, and they pretty much, a certain fairness told us they're on schedule. We asked for an updated schedule for us to analyze it. We want to get a little more comfort zone than just telling us they're on schedule. And we really think once they started with the steel, they got a little bit behind. But they pretty much committed to the 9/7/19, and that's about 5 months down the road. It's not very far. So and they still looks like there's quite a bit to be done, but they still fairly strongly. So we're gonna wait. Their schedule is due next week, I believe, and then we'll analyze it and see what it looks like actually their progress. They actually started on with the decking, and the steel is doing pretty well. All the underground piping, and also for plumbing and electrical, all underground is done. But now we're ready for them to start with the steel framing before they can start roughing in those utilities. As you can tell, let me go back here, these retaining walls are almost done. And you can tell that's a pretty big height difference. Going back to they stay pretty much on track. Actually, if you're just taking into account the billings, they're pretty close. They're pretty much parallel. It's a fairly small gap there. So from that standpoint, they're looking good. The Rio Grande, we're still talking to them about the schedule. They asked us, actually, if you don't mind, I'm cool. Let's see, actually this one here. There's 3 areas that they're pouring. They're pouring first the north side, then they come to the south side, and then they do the middle. They right now, this picture is 2 weeks old, and right now they've already poured all this.
We were having a discussion on it.
Yes, sir.
Does the cement have to sit for 28 days before they can put any?
Yes, sir. Well, the 28, they can start working a little early on it, they can start putting weight on it, but as far as being completely cured, you need to wait 28 days, completely cured. You can, there's enough strength in there after 2 weeks that you can walk around it and carry things around. But the full strength is not achieved until 28 days. And as you can tell here, they also have, this is a post-tension concrete, so it's a little more complicated. They have to tension these tendons here before you achieve full strength. So there's a little more time there before you can actually use the slab. But they're moving pretty well. They again, like I said, they've already done this. What they came back to us, and I just found out before the meeting, is they asked us, before they really have a real hard look at, they were supposed to have given us last week, and they did give us a schedule, but it still shows them behind, but they asked for, basically for them to, in order for them to get a good grasp of where they're going, they'd like to finish this area, so we told them okay. And then once they finish that, then we're gonna have to sit down with them. Like I've told you previously, there's a delay there because of El Paso Electric, and we estimated that to be at 45 days. So I think we're in the hole already 45 days, but we wanna find out, because we wanna make sure they are in agreement with our assessment that we were in the way 45 days. So we still gotta work on that. And once we've worked on that, then we can ask them for a recovery schedule for if there's any other days they're behind. But we're almost at a year right now. We got about another year to go on this. So we need to make sure that they get us that schedule so we can properly monitor it. But as you can tell, they're working very hard at it. This year, 260 yards is basically this area here. And the site work, basically all the site work is done now until we put the landscaping and have the finished touches on it. As far as the structural work, they started some wall reinforcing, and the first floor walls and columns are now complete, and the second floor is, columns are progressing along the decks. As you get the decks up, then the columns are going on. The plumbing work, we've done all of our plumbing work as far as underground plumbing, and we're ready to tap in to when El Paso Electric completes their portion of it. El Paso Water Utilities. Till El Paso Water Utilities completes that work. One thing we know is that they're not delaying us. So we've done all our portion, now it's just a matter of when they're done, then we'll wait tap in and then we'll let the water. But it's not causing any delays or anything like that. As they're doing this, pouring these decks, they're also putting the conduits for lightning protection. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but as part of this project, we extended the IT infrastructure all the way to Queen, and that's just about done, that portion of the work. As far as the buildings, it's very good. I mean, they are right on track. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the best projects, this one, HB's project, it's really good. So from the standpoint of the buildings, we're doing well. HB, this is looking great. We found out this week, they have their schedule, like part of our service is we analyze the contractor's schedule. And as of the latest schedule, we feel they're about 2 weeks, 3 weeks behind because of delays in the steel, when they're doing the steel, because there's a delay in the slab pouring. The thing about this contractor, they're fantastic from the standpoint that they acknowledge that's an issue and they're already working on the plan, and within a week they'll be submitting us as a make-up plan to make up for those days. So for all practical purposes, they're on track. And as you can tell, I showed you this picture last month. There was also steel decking, and now it's all concrete. It's already done. And basically, all 3 floors have already have their slabs in place. The structural work for the 3rd floor lies about 75%. There's a lot of work going on. Actually, let me go back to this one here. As you can tell, there's in the video, you'll see it as well. There's already a lot of interior work. See the ducts, air conditions going on. The dental room is already going on. So it's moving very well, very systematic. The floor boxes for IT, it's all 100%. They're completely done, and they did a fantastic job on that. As a matter of fact, that's something that we can be proud of, compared to some other projects. And the installation of interior partitions in the first floor, it's at 90%.
Now, we,
What about the buildings?
we just get
Yes, ma'am.
Pause for 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you wanna call the meeting to
No
order?
problem.
Yeah, we can call the meeting to order now that we have 4 members of the board present. Let the record show Ms. Sanchez, Ms. Nara, John Extra, myself are present. So, call the meeting to order now. So if you need any action, so we can take.
There's no action items.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
I think for purposes of the record, we started the meeting earlier, and it was all informational purposes. At this point of the meeting, we had Mr. Uxer join us, and now we have quorum of the board to continue.
Would you like me to go back real quick?
We're good.
Okay. So via here, again, the classroom, as far as the voice of the building versus actually in place, it's going well. And going to TTC, this one's looking fantastic. There's a lot of progress. We feel like they will definitely be done by the substantial completion date. Basically, we're back to where just, let me see if I can see, now you can't tell you. You'll see it in the video. That's quite a bit of work that's already being inside. And so right now, the big one is obviously the parking lot. They're 95% done with the fine grading, so that means in about a couple of weeks or so, you'll have a parking lot out there. So as you can tell, dental work is 95% complete, plumbing fixtures 100% complete, electrical work 100% complete. The big one that's missing on this one right now is the equipment. And you'll see that actually in the next slide, and that's why you still have this gap. You'll see this right here, have a big jump there. Once that equipment is in, they can bill for it, and you'll close this gap here. You'll see at Trans Mountain that happening as well. But we're doing pretty good at TTC. And this would be a great one. I'm looking forward to y'all to see this one, because it's really very nice. Trans Mountain, it's looking great, except the floors. I did mention to you that there's an issue with the floors at the last meeting. And right now, what we're working on, there's a punch list, we've done a punch list, so they're working on those items. There's still a lot of things they need to fix. But the big one is the floor, and right now we're in negotiations with them. They give us a less than final offer, and we're with the college, the architect, and ECM, we're analyzing their offer, considering it. And then very likely, I will have to call for a special meeting, don't hate me. But I really think we'll probably need to do that in order to keep on schedule. Because we feel fairly confident that the amount of the change order will be less than 50,000, but because of the sensitivity of the issue, I think, and Dr. Surratt, I know he concurs, that we need to bring to the board to explain
So
what
what would
the
be
issue
the
is.
purpose of the special meeting? What would be
Well,
the special
what
meeting?
it is we're working negotiations with the contractor to find a solution that's acceptable to the college
Okay.
in terms of remediating this. And basically, in a nutshell, without trying to get ahead of myself, they've done all they can do to make the floor look good, and it still doesn't look good.
Okay.
So the next step will be something that will look good, adds value to the college. And as part of that negotiation, we're working on trying to establish how much the contractor will pay, and if the college pay, how much the college will pay. So before we enter into agreement for a change order for that, we want to bring it to you, so you can, even though it's under 50,000, we don't have to bring it to you. And we feel pretty comfortable. You'll be not much less than 50,000, but it will be under 50,000. But Dr. Surratt rightfully said that this is such a sensitive issue that would behoove us to bring it to you. But in order to do that and not delay the project, we might have to call for that special session.
And is the 50K threshold?
Probably a couple of weeks, maybe.
Is the 50K threshold that you have, is that based on purchasing requirements, or is that based on a policy that the county, that
Purchasing
that TTC
Yeah.
has? Okay, that's what I wanted to
So, but so we all know, we're not unilaterally anything under 50,000. We absolutely involving the college with all the discussions.
Understood.
You just save us from having to come to the board.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I said, uh-huh.
The floor was wavy.
Yes, sir.
And there was nothing that they could do to fix that.
Yes,
So
sir.
we've come up with an acceptable alternate solution. Do we actually have the functional solution, not the cost and the agreements, but do we actually have a functional solution
Yes,
that
sir.
makes it, what is that?
There's two. One, the college doesn't want to consider, and I understand because it becomes a maintenance issue. It's an epoxy flooring, and basically it's a paint. You look fantastic, you know, we cover all the imperfections, but the college doesn't really want us to look at that. The other
Well,
one,
just essentially.
because it's a maintenance
paint,
issue.
a thick paint.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right.
Wow,
It looks great, but it is a maintenance.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
let me say something. The floor is not necessarily, when you think of wavy, that's not the primary problem with the floor. It's the actual aesthetics of the floor. The finish of the floor, there was a problem with workmanship and with the concrete that was provided and a combination of the two, and it gets pretty technical, and depending on who you ask, they'll tell you which reason.
What was the contract, was concrete in spec?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so it's
It's structural sound. It's not going anywhere. It's just not pretty to the eye. And it's chipped, and it's some boxes had to be leveled, and they chipped the concrete, and the joints, the expansion joints weren't done properly, and so there's a little bit too much cracking. But it's a aesthetic issue, and obviously it's not acceptable to the college. It's not been acceptable to us, and the contractor acknowledges fault.
Okay, but when you say wavy, I get the impression that one portion is an inch higher than another.
No,
okay.
nothing like that. No.
Okay.
There's nothing. I think that was discussed back in the day, but it's not really.
And an aesthetic issue, okay, so
It's
what's the
aesthetic.
alternate?
It's purely aesthetic.
What's the other situation?
And we did ask by the way, we did ask the structural engineer in writing
Yeah.
that they said it's perfectly structurally sound. The second one, which is what we're seriously having a look at, is go with the luxury vinyl tile. It's a long maintenance, there is very little maintenance. It lasts a very long time, 25-year warranty, and it looks fantastic. And there's a number of choices in terms of colors, textures, patterns, and so we're looking into that, and certainly it would be an upgrade, no doubt about that. And right now, we're just trying to firm up the dollar amount.
So, a couple of items. I toured the building today. It's a beautiful building unless you look at the floor. So I'm very familiar with floors that are in that building. We had a technology campus that we had diesel mechanics in, we had auto body repair, we had precision manufacturing, and that floor made a lot of sense. On this particular building, from my perspective, it looks like a remodel versus a new building, and it's a brand new building. It's not acceptable. None of you, when you see it, would feel that it's
But you're basing that just on the floor.
just the floor. The rest of
Okay.
the building,
Okay.
well, there's other items in the
But
building
I mean,
that we
those are
have
punch
concerns.
list type
Yeah.
items.
Yeah, I don't need to see the urinals from the hallway, I don't need to see the stalls from the hallway. That's a big issue for me. I understand ADA compliance, but now you've made it more difficult for a wheelchair to do a 3-point turn in those restrooms as well. But the floor is, from my perspective, it's not acceptable as it currently looks. It may be sound, but aesthetically, it's bad. It just is not acceptable. I don't think that any of the board members would appreciate it. So we have to fix it. How we mitigate fixing it is something that the board needs to consider. The contractor has admitted fault. I certainly understand the concept of more value. The judge was quick to tell me, we're not planning to sell it. So, yes, there's more value to the college, but it isn't a value that the board asked for, so we have to look at that. But every day we delay is an issue for us in scheduling classes in the future.
I wasn't aware, but since you brought it up, what's this 3-point turn business? I mean, do we have a real problem there?
I don't know.
Do we have a real problem there?
I don't think so. It's certainly fixable. We actually, so you'll know, we did it twice. One time we got a wheelchair, the second time we actually got a student in a wheelchair. And what we did, the problem is, when the architect designed, they feel the fact that you can actually look, you walk by, you look, and you can see the stalls. And that's, of course, a big no-no. So what the plan is just extend a little wing wall that blocks their view. And when you do that, you do have, if you're in a wheelchair, instead of just going right in, you have to turn, and turn. But we tape the floor where the walls are gonna go, and albeit it's not absolutely ideal, but it far exceeds the ADA requirements, far exceeds it. We could make that a lot narrower and still be within the law, but we chose to go ahead and have like a 48-inch
Well,
opening.
it's something we have to do, but
Yes, sir.
do we incur an additional cost for doing this?
Just adding the wall.
So that's an architectural cost, not us, because that's a deficient design.
Yeah, it is an efficient design. If the wall would have been there at the beginning, you would still have to pay for it. So if there's an argument there, if you go into a dispute situation, the wall, you would pay for it to begin with. You're just paying for
And
it.
this sounds like, this is under O&E.
You could, I mean, we could establish, but we're not talking a lot of dollars. I mean,
No, and I think, I gotta caution you about this.
less, the more you pay for it.
Well,
And you probably well versed.
let me explain this. This is an issue, let me explain it. So, the concept of errors and omissions, it's not a straightforward situation, okay? I mean, it's not a simple situation. Sometimes there's a blatant mistake of an architect where you have the wrong, say, elevations, and then you have to pull the contract, and then you realize that there's wrong, and then they have to take it back and report again. Well, that's obviously a very error that the architect would pay out of their insurance. They have an insurance for it. What we're talking about is a small wing wall that blocks a view that if they had done the design properly at the beginning, they would have had it. And so the college would have paid for it. So the only thing that we're paying for now is perhaps the excedence of the change order claim. 10%, this is all kind of anecdotal. A contractor would charge you probably a little bit extra because they're doing it as a change order as opposed to the original bid. That's what we're talking about here. So what do you think the wall would cost?
Not a whole lot, honestly, I don't know, maybe $1,000.
$1,000. So a premium for the change order, we're talking about $100. And so, yeah, we could go and try to get errors and omissions from the architect for $100, but it's potentially not worth it, right?
I've dealt with this a lot with UT System and Texas Tech, and I'm sure you'll back me up. If you go after errors and omissions, go after something big, because there's no warranty from the architect to the perfect building. So when you're talking about pocket
Okay, I don't have
change-
any problem with that, it's just
Yeah.
that when you say it's not a big deal, you know, think about if you had your daughter in there and you want somebody to walk down the hallway, then it becomes a big deal.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And-
so
and-
let's don't, you know,
Well,
okay, so.
the other thing is, I apologize for coming in late, but
Yeah.
the other thing is that we're not in tune to those little situations that can happen. That's why we hired you, to keep an eye on all of that. So how is it now our problem?
It's not necessarily a problem from the standpoint that you're having to pay a lot more money for it. It's a design, obviously a design error, but it's a very small design
Again,
error.
who was in charge of looking at the designs, the board or you guys?
It's us, it could honestly, no, I know where you're going with this, but honestly, and I'll be glad to share the plan with you, you don't catch that. The only time we
I
got.
wouldn't catch it because I'm not in the business of
No, I
looking for
understand
those,
that.
but you are.
No, I understand that, and I accept that. But it wasn't as obvious as you may think. The only reason, I think was that caught it, is when you walk by, you actually could see it. But honestly, we don't do the drawings for the architect. The architect is responsible for the design. We quality check it, but we don't check every single nick and.
Has the architect been paid all of them?
Not all their money, no, sir.
Well, there you go, we just deducted from what we owe.
And to you, it may not be a big deal for somebody in a wheelchair to
Oh, no,
go
no,
from going straight
don't
in
put
and
words in my
comfortably
mouth
to
because I
going-
never said that.
You said it's not really a big deal. It's not really a big deal. I mean, because you go and you go left, right, left.
Right.
Well, for somebody in a wheelchair, it's a pain
Right.
to have to go through that. I mean, we're
But
not.
the fact of the matter is that wall needed to be there in the beginning, or now it needed to be there. Does that make sense? So with that wall there, things have not changed in terms of accessibility. The need for that wall was there, it just was failed by the architect. So now we need to put the wall that should have been there to begin with, And the fact, yeah, they have to turn.
But if the architect would have designed it differently in the
But he
beginning,
wouldn't have-
then, well, maybe not put the wall there in the first place, or not put
Right.
the door there in the first place, we could have done another.
No, I understand that, but I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, if the architect would have designed it right in the first place, it would have looked exactly what you're gonna make it look like. That's what I'm telling you. Does that make sense?
Well, the bedrooms need privacy, period.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
There's
No doubt
be
it's a
done.
design, no doubt it's a design error, no doubt about that, but I guess what I'm getting at is, for when you're talking about $1,000, maybe $100, $200, is that really, do you really want to pursue that as an errors and omission for $200?
No, the answer is no, because it's gonna cost us more to do that.
And
But
let me say
what
a little
other
bit more,
solution do you have?
we're not trying to be callous about the matter. We keep a log of all the changes, and every change that happens in a job is assigned to either an owner request, modification, or unforeseen condition underground, or error and omission from the architect, right? Those are the three general categories. There might be a fourth one. Let's say there's three. So we have a log, and Judge, you're right. At the end of the job, we will assess in conjunction with staff, and if you wanted to, we could bring it to the board. But we have a number of errors and omissions and how much for each job it has cost. And just wanted to let you know that the standard of, the industry standard, not saying for the college or anyone, the architects have a 5% kind of promise of mistakes when you hire it. Any architect, even if you hire a worldwide architect from Dallas.
And that's in the contract, that they're gonna have a 5% mistake.
It's an industry standard.
We actually, going back Texas Tech, we did have a clause in there that said 5%, but
Well,
in
this
general.
isn't
Well,
Texas Tech,
No,
this
no,
is
I
EPCC.
understand that, but what he's saying is correct. It is an industry standard, but we like to put that in the contract, just make sure the understanding was there.
But let's
In
say-
this case, it's not in the contract.
But let's say, so what I'm trying to say is, we'll give you, or we'll give the staff, and then if we decide to share with you, a list of every error and omission and the cost associated with it for every project. And then we'll support you if you wanna go after the architect. We can do that. It's just,
We just won't write the last part of the check. And it seems like they'll have to come after us, not us going after them.
okay. That's,
Well, the thing is that this needs to be negotiated with them. You know, that's the bottom line,
Why are you
because,
putting the cart before the horse, like you say?
because we're going to be absorbing a cost on something that we didn't anticipate. And yes, there's an omission and all that can be, the list can be there, but how much is it gonna be at the end of the day, you know? And this is something that we are not there to oversee or to anticipate. That's why we paid you all to do that, to be on top of the situation. So now you resolve it, but don't put the cost back on the college. Work with the architect, come up with a plan. I'm sorry, one of the schools that they built, they put this, and I shared this before, they put the switches up on top of the wall. And teachers couldn't access that unless they got on top of a desk, and then they could turn it with a ruler on and off. You know, and that was not something that any of us had anything to do with, but it was an error that needed to be fixed, you know, so, we depend on you, and I know you're gonna do a good job figuring it out. But not bringing the cost back to the college. It should be that you either negotiate with them, or comes out of your contingency a month or something, or out of your salary.
Okay.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so, with that being said, I'm done. I will show you, if you wanna see a quick video, basically, of what the
Yes.
project. Okay, well, here's the restaurant, as you can tell, so it's meeting right there. And I thought I was done, so this is the, as you can tell, it's still outstanding.
It is.
25,000 hours, and one sprained ankle is.
That's very impressive.
Very good, very good. And so the schedule planner, right now, right before this meeting, I was actually told that Trans Mountain, they're not planning on having classes there until the fall. I have it here still, that's being part of summer too. We still certainly attempt to get done by then. It would be nice to get all this done by then. So even though the plan is not to have classes there, we want to make our best effort to get this done. But I will update it for the next slide, for the next meeting. Yes, ma'am. Northwest is still fall mini master. Library have spring 2010, and Mission Del Paso the spring mini master up to 2020. I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?
No, 2010.
Did I say
Well, 10 years ago,
2010?
yeah.
Boy, we were really late on this one, I'm sorry. She thought Trans Mountain was bad. So, this is right now the only one that it's in question, of course, because if you look at the percentages, if you saw before it was 103%, so we already passed that initial date, and this is obviously part of the negotiations that we'll have with the contractor. As far as the overall budget, it hasn't changed very much at all since last time. It's still very good actually. Budget-wise, we're doing very good. We still have right now about 5.2 million in contingency. So far it's going very well. Overall, this is for the bond funding, and it's still, the numbers are pretty much what we saw last time. And now I just finish showing the video real quick. It's okay. We started with Mission Del Paso.
When did you take these videos?
This was a couple of weeks ago. The only one Trans Mountain was actually Monday. The video, but all of these were about 2 weeks ago, and this really gives you a good idea of where they are. As you can tell, they're moving. You can already tell the shape of the building and the retaining ponds behind it. So this one is, again, this slab right now, it's about 50% done on this side. I speeded up a little bit so it won't be too slow. Northwest, this is to give you a good view too of the steel already in place. As you can tell, there's already a roof here in this area here. So this one is moving pretty well. And now it's got quite a bit of metal.
They're hurrying up.
Rio Grande. And here's the 3 areas I was talking about. This is north of the third floor.
I'm sorry. That's the third floor, the first floor. We're still using the one in the middle. I think it's gonna happen in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You said it's still 1 a.m. It changes, but I will let you know.
Yeah.
I would have been there, except he bugged out before I had a chance.
I'll take this, Rolex.
Maybe no.
What I want to do is come during the day to see what it's like.
All you see here is the post station here, the entrance. And this is all board already. So you can tell all the slots, all the slots will shape the corner.
God, it's a big thing.
Yeah. It's gonna be gorgeous too.
It's gonna be beautiful, yeah. You can tell there's already all the mechanical, room stuff in there. Partitions are all in now. That's the
Signage, some person, it's all still,
area.
Wayfinding.
wayfinding still in order.
This is the second
I
floor
mean, you
here.
get lost in that thing.
building the whole walls. And the third floor. Pardon? Oh, the next one. EPCC.
Nice.
This is a very nice building too.
This is the diesel area here, that's the classroom area. And down there, the last two bays are it's collision, and then the rest is automotive. And this is all storage. This was a non It's gonna be very impressive. With all the equipment.
To this one, so there's was a point.
We'll make sure.
This is the entry lobby here. Just what we put the partitions. This was about a week and a half ago. This is collision over here. And there's gonna be a paint booth that's gonna go right in there. This is automotive. And this is diesel. Dynamometers are already there, they're ready to install. This is the area where the students can walk down and move into cars from the Trans Mountain. This was just Monday, this was not the inside video, but the outside video. You can tell they're putting the boulders in the landscape. Let's roll up to the rest of it. These are the study areas right there. This is the main entry lobby. That's a display area. There's gonna be some glass in front of it. And this is the
No, it's just trying
area where they can sit.
I don't know what to do with the camera. That's not what the
And this
floor
is
like.
fashion. It's a little dark there, but that's where they put the mannequins in display. That's a classroom there. This is a little break area outside style, and it's got a nice view. You can see the reflection. A nice view to the mountains. This is a more, yeah, a little purpose area with an office there.
Was that
This is
carpet?
fashion. This is fashion.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
yeah, it's really nice.
This is the fashion here. You can tell in here, oh, no, the door is closed. And this is interior design right here. The restrooms, these are temporary sinks. They just put that in there so we can open the building, but there's actually the final sinks. They will come back and install the final ones. They just come back over. As you can tell, it's a beautiful building. It really is. It's just, you get those doors.
There's your white spot.
So that's it.
So what I would ask from ECM timeline on the floor, I know that Dean Evelers said that we're looking at opening that building in the fall. That's still, how long would it take us to install the flooring that the team is looking at?
We're looking at about 4 weeks to install the floor. And we're looking at about 30 days to put the furniture and put the computers up and all that.
So 2 months.
2 months. It's gonna be very close if we actually wanted to have classes there summer too, but it's probably just as well we push it to the fall, but it's gonna be very close to the start of summer.
I guess I need direction or guidance on, do we need to schedule a special meeting with the board to get board approval? Or do we, the next board meeting is May 29th. I don't like to wait, I wouldn't wanna wait that long, which
Board
means,
approval for what?
well, we're gonna, the floor, I don't know what you do with the camera, but the floor is much more flattering on that camera than it is with my own eyes. And I wish I was laughing, it's not, the building is beautiful unless you look at the floor. And then it looks like a renovation, not like a new building, and this is a new building. And I know this board, and I know that will not be acceptable when you all see it. So we have to do something. We can determine how, amongst the board, can determine how we move forward. I do appreciate the project manager has gotten the contractor to agree that they're at fault. So right now, I think we're looking at a total cost of approximately $118,000. So that's, pardon me, a little less than that, because we're about 107 or so. So then, you're looking at, we may expend close to, I don't like to do things like, oh, it's 49.5, so I don't have to bring it to you all. I'd rather have the board agree to it, that this is an expenditure that we want to incur. So
But
that
I
that
guess my
budget looks
thinking is,
appropriate.
why can we make a decision now and
Yeah,
have
we
to
can't.
wait for
Well, you don't have it,
It's
on-
not
you don't have it as an
posted.
item. You
It's
don't
not
have
an
it as
action item.
An action item, correct.
You can't take them.
We also haven't vetted all the options.
Correct.
Or the initial numbers, the initial offer for the contract, which we just received yesterday.
This one.
This morning, sorry.
When would we have that definitive, data to be able to make a?
I would say probably within a week and a half.
So schedule?
You think more?
Yeah.
2 weeks?
No, I think we should be.
A week? Yeah, I was thinking a week would be adequate.
Okay. So then what we'll do is, our office will work with the board to schedule, to potentially schedule a special. I just think the longer we wait, if we wait till the end of May, then by the time we start it, we'll be in June. By the time we finish it, we're closer to July, then the furniture, and now all of a sudden, we're bumping against the fall semester.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that.
We
Please.
also, Dr. Graham, had promised the board that any major changes in design would be brought before the board, and this is a major change to the design. But we need to vet the numbers, the initial numbers that the contractor used. We're not sure we agree with 100%, and we want to feel comfortable before we
I
bring
have
it.
a question. You mentioned 118,000.
Yeah, I'm off. I can't remember the exact number. We were figuring that our portion was gonna be a little less than 50.
Oh, okay, so it's our portion that's.
Oh, yeah, the total
The total
cost.
is, okay.
Right now, we're at a split, and I need the board to be able to
Yeah.
agree to that split as well.
And if there's one mistake, right now it's looking at 49.5 something. If there's a mistake, it'll hit 50 or exceed 50. We need to vet the numbers before we bring it to you.
And I'd rather have board approval than say, oh, we're now over 50 and we did it
So
improper.
can you give us a tentative date and see if we're available, and that way you at least would know that?
Yeah, that we can.
Schedule, because we don't want the board holding up progress. Gotta move forward.
May 11th?
Well, we can look at the week of the 6th, Dr. Graham. I think that, I don't know how many of you will be coming to the student athletic banquet, but if we have a significant number of the board.
We actually just have got those invitations today
That's,
that are gonna
that's
be
scheduled
passed
for,
out.
that's scheduled for Tuesday, May the 7th, and so we could schedule something before that, so that, but we'll verify with the board. I mean, that's one option.
But you got everybody here. The 7th is a Tuesday?
The 7th is a Tuesday.
7th is good.
What time on Tuesday?
Well, we're looking at, the banquet starts at 5:30, I would say that we have the board at 4:30.
Can you make it? The 7th, 4:30? Juan?
Yes.
Sir?
No.
Mr. Arce can, Ms. Sanchez,
I cannot.
okay.
How about, is Belinda in town?
Should be back by then.
We possibly ought to go ahead and mention that we will have to have another meeting the following week.
Yeah,
Which is,
to
How about
canvass
the
the
8th?
We
election.
have to canvass.
Oh, well then.
We could do that as well.
Yeah.
We could wait till the 13th. The week of the 13th is when we anticipate having to canvass the election.
I spoke with the elections administrator last week, and she indicated that they felt like the earliest would be the 13th that we could canvass because they have to wait for any provisional ballots. And so she said they would prepare everything that morning. We could pick it up and have the canvass later that day. The last day to canvass is on May the 15th, so we have a
How
very
about on
short
the
one.
8th? Is everybody available the 8th?
But then.
It's a Wednesday?
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday, Judge?
Good. 4:30, yeah.
8, 5,
I can do it.
Can we do it in the morning?
4:30?
I
Little
can, on the
little later?
8th, at 4:30 is okay.
On the 8th? Okay, so we got it, the 8th. Sir?
Let me say a couple things. So our project manager is gonna have surgery that day.
He can cancel it.
Probably like that,
Let me just.
wait, is it in the morning?
I could cover it if the all agree to the 8th and I could cover.
We don't
or-
have to have the meeting here, we could go to.
Or another option, we believe that we'll probably be ready by the 3rd or the 2nd, which is a week before, but I don't know if that works for you all.
I don't think the judge wants to be here on the 2nd.
I got court, doesn't matter. But on the 3rd, I think I got it on the 3rd.
The
You
third-
are.
Second or third? Thursday,
Oh, my.
2nd is
We'll have to have a cake for you and all that good stuff.
yeah, that's okay.
So what day are we looking at now?
Can you make it the second, Mr. Axel?
See, what day of the week
It's a
that?
That's our
Thursday.
Thursday.
She's not her.
No.
No.
Since we can't be discussing this.
I can.
No.
The third, we have a function.
She's not her.
We do,
Oh,
The third, we
On a
have
Friday.
on a Friday at 5 p.m. We could meet at 4.
No.
that's the night of the, staff dinner, which is on this side of town. The faculty staff awards dinner is on May the 3rd over here at the Hilton Garden Inn,
Right.
right here on the gateway.
Bunny, you can make it.
No, I cannot, not the 3rd.
Okay, so we
Back
can
to
go
the-
back
Why
to
don't,
the
why
8th.
don't we just do it on 13th when we have the candidates?
Because they're gonna have an answer already by the
They're
3rd, so
both
why
gonna
waste
be in
another?
surgery.
Why waste another week? Let's just do it the 8th. You're available, you're available.
But I have all the information, I don't have a problem presenting to you.
Yeah, we'll trust you.
You trust me too.
Yes.
So the 8th,
We trust you. Because all you're gonna need really is a decision from the board on that.
Exactly. And show you the facts.
And what I'll do is I'll show you a lot more of the information. There's been options, but we're kind of pointing to one based on discussions with staff. But I can give you a more comprehensive view of the matter.
I think the 13th is your best bet. That's where most of us will be here. I'd like tomorrow, the board won't be.
On the 8th, everybody's available.
On the 13th.
I can't do the 13th.
She can't do that 13th. The 8th, everybody's
That's when we
available.
have the candidates,
That's right.
Okay.
so we can't swear you in. If you win.
And then we'll have to
Ms.
come back
Sanchez,
later.
what are your days, Ms. Sanchez?
I could do the 8th.
8th?
Yes, sir.
8th? Okay, let's do the 8th.
Then we'll have to find another date for
4:30?
accepting the candidates, right?
Well,
The 14th
we'll
or
have to
15th.
be back here on the 13th. But the
14th.
idea is to get these guys started so we can.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we said the 8th, then we've got to do it again.
That's all it is, just speed it up a little bit. Okay,
Don't make me so hard to type right now.
so the 8th it is.
May 8th at 4:30, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You got 8 minutes before we got to start doing the board meeting.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn.
No, some of them.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Yeah, we do want to-